Hi, I'm Joe Mullings. I'm here with Dave Ranker. I'm really excited to share this story with you. Dave and I had a chance to spend 2 days with Leon and his family. For those of you that don't know who Leon is, and that's probably only the people in your 20s and 30s, you should study him. He's up there with Ford, Carnegie. He's the father of minimally invasive and surgical stapling. And Dave, you had a great career with him.
Yeah, I spent 13 years with U.S. Surgical Corporation, and it was the best part of my career. He gave so many people the opportunity to do wonderful things. There's so many little stories that through these 2 days I never even knew about him, and I worked with him for so long. So super appreciative of them opening up the doors to us and to go in and really learn more.
Leon talks about U.S. Surgical and probably more importantly, what it is to be an entrepreneur. So I hope you enjoy this. All right, we're rolling now.
Okay.
Awesome. So what's a typical day for you these days?
Get up around 8, have breakfast, go for a hike, come back, tend to whatever business is on for that day and work the rest of the day.
So you've had the same breakfast for how many years?
Oh, a long time. Fruit, basically.
Right.
Orange juice, a banana, piece of toast.
The 92-year young diet?
Yeah. Don't make me older than I am, 91. I'm starting to get old because I used to feel 65. Now I feel 70. I grew up in the Bronx, played stickball, played punch ball, played curveball, typical Bronx young man. I've always been interested in nature and anything connected with biology. I applied to the Bronx High School of Science. I flunked the entrance exam. My career as a salesman began. I picked up the phone and I called Morris Meister, who was the founder and principal of Bronx High School of Science, and I asked him for an appointment. He gave me the appointment. He said, "Why are you here?" I said, "Because I flunked the entrance exam and I want to go to your school." He said, "Well, why should we let you in?" And I said, "Because I was a damn fool, I didn't study. But I learned my lesson and I want to do a good job for the school." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you in on a contingent basis, but I'm going to talk to you once a quarter, and you better be doing a good job or you're going out." I said, "Yes, sir." I got the highest mark in the Bronx in the biology regents. And I said to Dr. Meister, "See, I made it." He said, "Well, I'm glad to see it. Keep it up."
So there's horses all over the place. Lee,
Yeah.
love for horses?
Yes. I've always liked horses. I used to love to ride. I gave up riding only because of my hip. I can't get off a horse. I can get on it, but I can't get off it.
That's a small detail at
Yeah.
the end, right?
Still ski, though.
You still ski? Wait a
Yeah.
minute, you still ski?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. I've heard so many versions about how U.S. Surgical started, and I'd rather hear it directly from you.
Okay. Now, this was in 1963. I was manufacturing coin-operated dry cleaners, and business was terrible. I was in New York talking to a business broker, somebody who could find us subcontract work. And I was sitting at his desk and doodling with what looked like a big, heavy wrench. And I asked him, "What is this thing?" And he said, "That's a Russian surgical stapler." I said, "What is a Russian surgical stapler?" He said, "It's something they use instead of a needle and thread in Russia, in surgery." I said, "Come on, you gotta be pulling my leg." And he said, "No, I'm serious." I said, "Well, what are you guys doing with it?" "Well, we're trying to get it sold." And the reaction that we're getting from all the companies like Johnson & Johnson and Pilling and everybody in the business is exactly the same as yours. Crazy idea.
Crazy idea. And so where did it go from there?
He said to me, "You know, we have a cell book on this technology that we got from the Russians. We don't need it anymore. Nobody's interested. Why don't you read it on the way home?" I said, all right, that would be fun. So I went through it, and of course I didn't understand 2/3 of it because it was all medical stuff, surgical things. So I called Professor Mark Ravitch, who at the time was chairman of the department at Johns Hopkins University. And I asked him about this crazy idea of surgical stapling. He said, it's not so crazy. The idea of surgical stapling has a lot to offer. It cuts surgical time significantly, it reduces blood loss, and it reduces tissue handling. These are important things. I said, well, why isn't it acceptable? He said, because the Russian staplers are so cumbersome that nobody will use them. When we talk about a surgical staple, we're talking about something the size of 2 human hairs, and maybe 1/8 of an inch across. The operating room nurse had to put a viewing glass on and load each of these little tiny staples by hand into the instrument. Well, American nurse hasn't got time to do that, nor frankly the inclination. But I looked at the device, and I'm a basement tinkerer, I always have been, and I said to Dr. Ravitch, may I have this to play with and see if I can come up with some ideas for you? He said, fine, it's just sitting on my shelf. So I took it home, and the first thing that hit me is the big problem here is the loading with the staples that are so little. Why not load them at the factory and have a cartridge like a razor and a razor blade? So I went home and I made a cartridge out of balsa wood in my basement. And I loaded them with a tweezer, just one at a time, and machined out a slot in the instrument and just slid it in. And I called up Dr. Ravitch. I showed him the cartridge and how it worked. He called in his operating room supervisor and asked her what she thought of that. And he said, well, that certainly would be easy to do. I'd have no problems with that. Believe it or not, that's how U.S. Surgical started.
When did you decide this was going to be a company as an entrepreneur? And then who did you think of, or what did you think you needed in your first few hires?
Well, I got a relationship going with Dr. Ravitch, and he used to invite me in to watch him operate. It became very obvious watching him operate and seeing how little blood loss there was when the instruments were used and how much faster they were than using a needle and thread. I thought this has got real potential. And I went to this guy Krieger and Rosenblum and I said, I want you to finance this. I was very fortunate that I found 2 people who had some vision and said they'll go along with it. And that's how we really got started. Through a friend, we got Time magazine interested in what we were doing. And they did a little article on us. And I took the article and I sent it to Morris Meister and I said, see, I made it. And Morris Meister scrolled right across the page. This has nothing to do with it, you should still go to college.
The legendary sales organization that you built, you did it different.
But what we found was a doctor would cause his hospital to buy the devices. He'd get into the operating room and he'd say, now what did that salesman say? Pick up his instrument and put it down. So we set up a group with 8 nurses who we could send out when a doctor bought the devices to show them how to use them. And this worked fine until we started doing more business, then the nurses would be all over the lot. So we came up with the idea of developing a sales force that could do both ends of it, make the sale, and then teach the surgeon how to use what he bought. And this was really what revolutionized U.S. surgical and revolutionized the industries. Nobody'd ever done that before. We took the salesmen and we put them through a 6-week grueling training program. We had to teach the salespeople how to use surgical talk. And then we had to teach them how to actually use the device so they could teach the surgeon. So a salesperson would make the sale and then offer to scrub with the surgeon. The surgeon knew how to do the operation. knew the technical aspects, but he didn't understand the instrument. The salesperson would be the technical expert. And that program caused U.S. Surgical to take off.
You know, if you came through that program and made it, you were gold. People wanted you. You know, companies wanted you on their team.
Well, the reason was a lot of people didn't make it.
That now is the Bible process for any medical device, is making sure you have a great training program, making sure you've got the right people in place. And if I recall, you had to make it through the training program before you got an offer? Is that how that worked?
You got an offer subject to.
Subject to.
Yeah, right. Because we knew that roughly a third of them wouldn't make it. So we told them, this is the training program. If you can handle it, you've got a job, but you have to handle it.
In my business, I deal with U.S. Surgical alumni all the time, like hundreds of them. And the fondness that every single one of them have for you in that organization is amazing to me. What did you do? What is your message to have that kind of love, a generational love?
Well, I believe in treating all employees, regardless of what their job is, with respect and appreciation. I think that an elevator mechanic is just as important as an accountant if that's what he does and he does it well. I used to manage by what I called wander. I would wander onto the floor and stop and ask somebody what they're doing, why is it important, how does it work, and then I'd go to the next person and ask them that, and the next go around I remember that they had a little girl, how's the little girl? And people appreciate that little bit of attention, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't put on. It was something that was real. I was trying to tell these people, you're as important as I am. If you do your job, I can do mine. If you can't do your job, I can't do mine.
And that would be part of your rigor, right? You would say, all right, I'm going to walk around?
Yes.
That was as important as making a financial decision, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, probably more important, because I got a feel for the people and I got a feel for what they were doing. I don't think that most CEOs these days get down to that level. And I think it's important because those are the people that make it happen.
And he truly believed that everyone should be treated equally. And he dreams of the day that this country, everyone in this country will feel that way. No color, nobody ever thinking of what is his sexual orientation, or where does it really come from, what country, what is that accent. None of that ever mattered to him.
So this is a super letter out of all the letters, right?
Have you seen this, the whole thing? Oh gosh, he was probably only, what, 27, 30? He had 3 little kids and a wife, and he was probably just struggling himself. And he was selling,
right?
He was selling refrigerators, oh, actually freezers, right?
Freezers.
So this lady must have bought a freezer from him, and she couldn't make her payments because both her and her son had cancer. And her husband had to quit his job to be able to care for them. So he wrote a letter to Lee saying, I'm sorry I can't make payments. And Lee wrote her a letter saying, please send your coupon book covering the balance of your payments to me. We will cancel the balance of the cost and allow you to keep the freezer as our little contribution towards brighter dates. In addition to that, he said, and every time you need food, I will fill it up for you at no cost, and as many times as you need. All you have to do is take care of yourself and your child.
And you were 26 at the time, 27
Something
at the
like
time,
that. Yeah.
right? So that, again, that speaks to what you do when nobody's watching.
That's true, nobody was watching.
Right, but you did the right thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Poor lady had her hands full.
yeah, yeah. And you took a little bit of a load off of her.
Yes.
When did you know that you were an entrepreneur and you couldn't work for somebody?
I don't think I ever knew it. I think it just happened. I get asked at these sessions, what's it take to be an entrepreneur? And my answer is, if you gotta ask that question, you're never gonna be an entrepreneur. I don't think you can teach entrepreneurship. Opportunity is like the air, it's everywhere. But An entrepreneur knows how to separate it from a storm and can recognize the opportunity, whereas somebody who's not an entrepreneur will look at the same air and say it's air.
Mm-hmm. These are your notes from a Princeton presentation. I think what struck me the most was the very last point it looks like you left everybody with. It said, the most important lesson despite language and customs, people are people. They react the same and they are motivated above all by a good manager, no matter of nationality. And that is always the difference between success and failure.
Yeah, I agree to that.
You wrote it.
Oh, okay.
And so now as you look at the industry, Lee, and it's 2018, the medical device industry and the medical industry is different than when it was in the 70s and even the 80s. What's your guidance to them?
Well, keep an open mind, look, and look some more, and don't say no when you don't like what you see. Just push it and follow it, because all ideas need nurturing. And it's easy to say no. It's much harder to say, I can make it work. I'm going to stick with it until I make it work.
Legacy. What do you want and expect your legacy to be?
Well, that's a question that's very difficult to answer without sounding like you're a big shot.
Please do.
What I'd like to have people remember me for is my contributions to surgery. I think that surgical stapling and subsequently laparoscopy revolutionized a very important segment of medicine. And I have been in my lifetime recognized for it, and I would like to always be recognized for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's, it's hard to even talk about, what he's done for so many people, including myself. I mean, really, the opportunities you've given people, and the legions of them who you see on Facebook even, where there's an ex-surgicalite group there that is just constantly following you and putting them up old pictures and talking about how grateful they are. From your vice presidents to the folks on the assembly. And I've known him for a long time. I still can't call him Lee. He's Mr. Hirsch. That's just the way it is.
Well, I will say this about legacies. There aren't too many businessmen who've been crowned the Prince of Cambodia.
That's right.